Mm, all right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of Wild Heart Sisterhood. And I'm here with Ashley Anavesi. Did I say that right? Oh.
Close enough, Avinashi. I'm not attached. It's all good.
Anyway, welcome, Ashley. A little bit about this episode is Ashley is the founder of Raising Humanity, a conscious parenting program and more, actually, a holding a space, a community of parents and others coming together, really leaning into raising humanity within themselves and their children in a whole new way, uh, ushering in the new light, the new paradigms of awareness, um, healing, transformation, and availability of who we can be truly as mother, as father, as parent to ourselves and our children, which is kind of beautiful and unique about your program. Um, and for myself, a little bit about these episodes is that I have been inspired and delighted and in wonder and appreciation and honor of so many women I've met on my spiritual solo journey, life journey, raising children, going through all the various stages of being a woman. And so now I'm finding this beauty in celebrating women and celebrating all that they bring in every form and every ways, all the rainbow of colors with this incredible curiosity and devotion to hold women in this space coming together. So thank you, Ashley, for joining today. Uh,
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be meeting you here. It's been a little while.
has been I would love you to speak a little bit about what you offer. Let's begin there. For those that haven't met you, they may have seen your picture or your name or even touched in
Mm,
with Raising Humanity. So if you can speak into that for a little bit,
mm.
that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to share a little bit. So, for everyone who's listening here, we understand that the impact of our relationship with our own parents is typically what's embedding quite a footprint for us moving forward. And that begins in early childhood. So, in the first 7 years of our lives, we're generally adopting most of our beliefs. About 95% of our beliefs are imprinted into our cellular membrane, then. I mean, it's not even just landing up here, it's landing in our body. And that's why, through my own parenting journey of doing all the do's, you read the books, you do the courses, you look outside, you go to the moms groups, you do everything you've done in your template of living life well, right? You've perfected all those other areas. You've got the job, you've got the house, you're basically in control of your life. You work out when you want to, you go and have a meal out, and then you have children and you recognize that this notion of control can no longer apply in your world unless you want your children, which we very clearly see dimming and dimming their light over time as we try and place our own beliefs on who they are and how they should navigate forward. So, as I started to see this reality in my own life of the fact that I was trying to control and very inadvertently, very subconsciously, because I know with every parent on the planet, they have the best of intentions. They're just living on a past template for the most part. And I was doing that as well. Not to blame my parents, but to say that they do the best that they can with their resources at the time, and then we carry that forward until we walk into more possibility, which is happening
Yeah.
generation after generation, wave after wave, through this evolutionary process. So as I started to really unravel what was going on underneath the surface, it wasn't just the anger, it wasn't just the confusion, it wasn't just the body pains and the breakdown and the burnout and the acne and the ovarian cysts. It wasn't just treatable on the surface. I really had to start excavating and finding out what was going on within me that had me behave in a certain way outside of me. And with children, you have such a direct mirror because children are incarnated in such a way of truth, in such a way of being that love that we so much yearn and crave the connection to. So I really started to see the children as my teachers. And that was a real flip of the script because I had never lived that way in my entire life. But when I started to lean into that and get the help from those outside of me, including Bill and Patricia, I really started to understand that there was a whole new way of life that was possible here if I was willing to choose it. And I'm not saying that it wasn't easy. I'm not saying that it was something that I just jumped into. It took a lot of me holding on to the old and kicking and screaming and saying, I don't want to let go of this perception of control that I have in my life. But what I recognized in really being available for my own healing and my own love, that I could be there to hold the space that these children really needed, to to just be nurtured as they already are, as beings of light. They are those reminders. So that's how we've come into this, and out of that we've created programs that really support the parent in returning to their true self. So this isn't so much about looking at the child and saying what's wrong with the child and orienting ourselves towards that. It's about coming back to our own authentic way of being and saying, what do I love? What brings me joy? What has me feel nourished and held and wild in my true spirit? And from that, we naturally give permission to those around us. So
Mm.
that's the foundation of the programs. And yes, there is intensive quantum healing and cathartic healing, which Bill and Patricia so beautifully support our members in. There is, we have our psychotherapist, Sam, who comes in for therapeutic guidance and coaching. I've developed the curriculum around this, and we also have a doctor of naturopathy. So all elements are brought into this one space to support parents through their deep healing with consistent support and consistent community. And then after that, there's 6 months of integration where you really start seeing these threads being woven back into your life. And you start seeing how it's showing up in your children. If they're ready, they may not be, but at least you're relieved of the guilt, of the shame, of the heaviness that you might have carried in not feeling that you were doing your best. So that's really what we offer. And now we're starting to move towards integrating children into the space because that was a big calling in my heart. I feel like that integration of elders and children are so important as we nurture this village in the West, which I've been hungry for, having grown up in a village and having grown up in India as well, through my family of origin. It's really, really important that we do bring these elements back into these communities we're creating here and really start building a more holistic system. So now we're doing that for children and parents and elders. And it's really a space of play. It's called the playground. So we're so excited about that manifestation of it because parents will be held there and children will be held there and elders will really have a space to be seen and offer their wisdom.
What's beautiful about it, Ashley, because as we were speaking, we had the pleasure to witness you birthing Raising Humanity.
Hmm.
And Raising Humanity itself has gone through much evolution process, in a very short time.
Hmm.
And that speaks to what is the devotion in your heart. That speaks to the movement that is alive within you.
Hmm.
I really would invite people that listen to really hear that on a deep level, that what we allow inside self to move, to evolve, and grow starts to be demonstrated in our life very directly. And I just wanted to backtrack and emphasize how the children and family members reflect what's moving inside of us so
Hmm.
directly and quickly, and that probably I would say from this journey and just being around the block a few times,
Hmm.
the most challenging, the most, yet the most rewarding when we've created that change in self is when we see it and witness it in our family.
Mm,
What we're here for. We're here to to connect deeply, to love deeply, to hold deeply those we care about most.
mm,
So often, what I hear you speaking and what I've witnessed and experienced is this including of all is really important. That's what we're evolving to in our humanity anyway.
mm,
That's what we're being invited to.
mm,
It's beautiful to have a place for people to come to actually experience it,
mm.
the holding and the movement that you're offering.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
really appreciate that. Yeah, it was interesting actually. I do share this with anybody listening is that as you're stepping out in your passions, or if you have been for decades, like Bill and Patricia have been, um, it's a really interesting dance to, as Patricia's mentioned, to allow what's going on inside of you to permeate outside without that need for control that we've already identified can be really limiting and debilitating really for that creative flow to come through. So what I have found is that when we feel the dissonance between the internal, even what we're doing internally as a team, and that's not reflective of what we want on the outside, right away we'll run into a bit of a hurdle, and we'll feel that viscerally within us, and we'll feel that within our members as well. And it's for us to close that gap and understand, what are we not committed to internally that we're trying to perpetuate externally, or vice versa? What are we doing outside that we're not committing to on the inside here? So it's been a really interesting dance that way to get really honest. And we always come back to that word authentic, but just really being in integrity
yeah,
for what we are standing for, which is showing up with commitment and the ease and grace. Let's do it together. Let's take the load off of just holding it ourselves, which we do so well in the West, in our nuclear family units. It's like the child is relying on only the mother and father, and that's inherently a problem. So we do need this village that we speak about, including this sisterhood village that you're birthing.
yeah,
So thank you.
yeah. You're welcome. As you were speaking, I was really feeling that, this whole expression available, because as you were speaking about how you feel it in the team, so you recognize it in the group, you feel it in the team, and you come back together
Mm,
and come back into integrity. So one thing that we speak about often is the only way to know integrity is to be out of it.
mm,
But it's not a shaming or a blaming or it's really like, whoa, I feel that I'm off track. My footing feels different. I haven't quite found my footing to come back into alignment. And usually people that are really moving in the spaces and see these spaces where that isn't who they are, yet they're still responding or reacting that way, are what you're saying. Let's invite back in the integrity and the awareness so we can truly be who we are. And
yeah. I love that. I love that. And it's it can really be a gentle process. I think we're now moving out of this fiery, windy sort of, the polarized movement that we've so much gravitated towards in the past. And we're meeting closer to the center. So it's easier to identify that the contrast can exist within that center safely, and we don't have to, out of fear or out of that flight mode, just revert back to our default, which is just pulling out of it altogether and saying, throwing our hands up, as we women have had a tendency to do with just all the resistance that's on the outside. It's so nice to find that nest closer to the center now, as humanity all gradually walks towards um, less of you know, the back and forth.
yeah,
Yeah, pendulum swings.
and to find the community that you feel the embrace,
Mm-hmm.
feel celebrated in all ways, in all forms, where you can show up as you are, no
Mm-hmm.
matter the flavor, and feel the acceptance and feel the support, whether it's, you know, a community of spiritual work, or whether it's a community of friends or just people you know. You
Yeah.
know, we have such a wild ride all the time, as you know.
Yeah.
So we're ourselves. We have this wild ride right now, and what was really apparent in just a few days ago in this urgency is we had so many lovely people stepping forward to support us,
Mm.
being there without question, without just really committed to um, holding space for us and being available and doing the little things, food in the fridge, whatever we needed at that time,
Mm.
walking the dog, whatever it was,
Mm.
they were there without question, without being asked. They
Mm.
just came forward.
Mm.
So it reminded us of the beauty, because we've been these holders, these facilitators, support others for so long.
Mm.
And when we witness others coming forward, supporting us, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's really, it's such a gift to receive the support
Mm.
also. Not only to give it, but to receive it is so beautiful. And
Gorgeous. Yeah.
and what you were speaking of earlier, I see that like we're moving into this receiving, all of us. And for women, receiving can be bring up all the places within us of doubt.
Mm.
All our doubt we have of our attractiveness, of our abilities as a woman.
Mm.
That voice we have in our heads that keeps us strong or keeps us moving or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it keeps us diving deeper,
Mm-hmm.
and to allow the self to receive is pretty beautiful.
Mm.
And, and I wanted to ask too for you, just for everybody listening, what do you feel was your pivotal moment where, because you were very successful in your life, like you had a successful career. Um, if someone were looking through into your life, they would have seen you have much success in many levels.
Mm.
So, what was your pivotal moment for you that you felt that moment that, whoa, change is coming and I'm moving with the current of change,
Mm.
no matter what?
Yeah, so this one is a hard one for me to identify. There were a few bigger moments, and you were a part of some of those bigger moments, including getting lost on a mountain and saying, what am I really here for? Because I can construct things based on what I think is needed in the world and what my heart is called to. But really, that full surrender, which you so well know, I mean, we're quite intimate with, that surrender didn't really land until that moment that I got lost on the mountain and I really had to make a decision for myself. Am I returning to the world as I am? Because at that point, it was me and nature. I mean, I was raw, I was naked, so to speak, and I was just available for the world then. And I don't think I've ever had a moment where I've been so vulnerable, where I haven't had a warm home to land in. I haven't had somebody outside of me to say, I've got you. This was probably the first time that I felt so alone, but so tapped into truth in that moment of the fact that I am responsible for what I choose to do in this lifetime. And I think seeing that level of choice really spun me. But prior to that, it was many, many small choices that took me to that place. So, I mean, you know my mom and dad quite well, and they're very, very committed to truth. They are very honest human beings, and they've come from very humble roots as well. So, having walked this lifetime with them and for 20 years, hearing my mom so graciously and so consistently as well share with me, Ashley, what's happened to you? Where is the real Ashley gone? Where is she? Where is her heart? Because she knew me throughout my childhood. She knew me in my early years. And then I hit university. And university, I was still in the exploration of my heart. I was still very open. I was still feeling that softness within me as a woman developing. And then as I got into the corporate world, and then as I got into real estate, yes, the success was there on the outside, but I was so dissociated
Mm,
with the ebbs and the flows. I think for anybody seeing me then, they would have said, "Oh, you were so much in your heart." But I could feel this dissonance within me because I knew the potential of my heart, of all of our hearts, because that's the way that I'd grown up connecting in my family of 12, in knowing that somebody always had my back, in knowing that we had come from these humble roots, and knowing that my father would go out to feed the birds in the farm before, the sun even rose. Like, this is where I'd come from. So I didn't really have much understanding of this chaotic, hectic, get on the treadmill, push at the expense of our well being. I didn't have much orientation towards that. But seeing that in the outside world, of course, was a little bit alluring. It's like, oh, that looks kind of fancy. That looks novel. That looks good. Why don't I give it a whirl? And then before you know it, right, the body starts breaking down, your relationships start breaking down. You look at yourself in the mirror and you don't even know who you are anymore. So, back to your question, I feel like my mom's continual reminders and my younger sister, being a clinical psychologist in the world of postpartum, she was starting to share a few things. And one of the things that really landed with me, then it was a trigger, and now it's something that, obviously was a tremendous gift at the time. And after was her reflection back that, us parents are using our children as validation. And I never really got that until the weeks that followed her share. And I think she was genuinely concerned that I was doing this and managing multiple businesses and trying to maintain a household and do all the do's that we do as modern day parents, as modern day mothers. And yeah, that really, really sunk into my bones in a really uncomfortable way. And I had a really good look around, and it was just a couple weeks after that that I saw Krish, our older guy, who's an empath, who's so beautifully sensitized, but is not validated by the world as it is, in its robotic trance. Um, I saw him at the breakfast table, and it wasn't even a table, it was me reaching out over the kitchen island, quickly getting food into them. Kyan was maybe about 6 months then, and Krish about 2 years. And they were just frozen. And we were in our daily routine, right? Just let's get ready quickly, grab the clothes off the bed, get these kids fed, get the nanny to come, run out the door, work all day, rush back home through traffic, get them fed, all to go back to work through the night while breastfeeding. The blue lights in my eyes, and I'm trying to breastfeed, and the kid is feeling disconnected and just wanting to latch on. Kids up through the night. But that moment of them being across the countertop and literally being frozen, that moment was just that sort of moment for me that I'll never forget. I recognized in them that this was the choice point. I could either continue and their souls would continue to diminish and be depleted by the life we had brought them into, or we could attempt to rebuild their light. Imagine that at 2 years and the other guy being at 6 months, they were already being stripped and revoked of their light. And I could feel that so clearly in them. And there was no point of return at that time. I
Mm.
said, I'm committing, and this is it. Whatever it takes me to have these children experience their full light in this lifetime without me self sacrificing and giving all of myself away.
Yeah, that's another fine balance.
Yeah, I will do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Woo! I can feel people listening. I can feel them identifying and hearing and feeling all this.
Mm,
And part of that, everything you're speaking of, is the opportunity for movement and growth. Like, it's really important for all of us to keep sharing our stories, because some people are in the mid of that story. Some
mm,
people are awakening to that story. Some people are leaning into, can something be different?
Mm.
So, in these episodes, the encouragement that we can choose, that we still have choice, no matter what it looks like or what is pressuring into us from outside.
Mm.
Yeah. And, as you're there, you're such a great storyteller. My experience of you was when you came into the circle one night over in North Van, and that was after your experience being lost on the mountain for hours. And you came in and you were stripped raw.
Mm.
I could feel the vulnerability. I could feel the invitation of what's being stepped into. And it was an honor just to hold you as you grounded back in with all the awarenesses that you had. And I felt Mother Nature like a storm with you. She wasn't messing around.
Mm.
She was teaching you uh, the importance of remembering our humanity, remembering
Mm.
why we're here. And what keeps coming to play over and go over in all of my circles and everywhere I am is that we're not actually very long here on this planet.
Mm. Mm.
We only have so many given breaths. We only have so many given heartbeats. So, how is it we're going to spend it? And
Yeah.
are we spending it in strife? Are we spending it focusing on the division? Or are we spending it being solution and moving to becoming the wholeness? So that's what we can hold,
Mm.
for ourselves and others. So it's
Yeah,
just,
thank you, Patricia. Thank you for holding me then, and thank you for continuing to hold and us learning how to do this dance all together,
yeah,
knowing that we can lean in and lean out as we need to. And it's not really personal because the root of it is a universal love, like that foundation is under our feet.
yeah,
And within that, I recognize that the opportunities that I've been given by landing in the Western world as a result of my parents' choice to come over here
yeah,
has been quite profound. I mean, we talk a lot about choice here, and yes, even within our Western ecosystem, there's many who actually don't have choice
yeah,
because they're in such bondage. But for those of us that have landed here and now do have choice, I think it's a really potent time to consider the the gift that we've been given and the responsibility that comes with that gift of choice.
yeah,
There is a really big responsibility on our shoulders as women too, to have the courage and surround ourselves with those who have mustered the courage up for themselves or can see us in those moments of, oh, I'm feeling so weak in my knees and I just want to collapse to the ground and revert back to my lineage's story or the old narratives or not being good enough or needing to be timid or needing to hide. um, it really is a responsibility that we have in being on this end of the planet. Because I know going back to India and going to all these other parts of the world, we don't see that same freedom in those places yet.
yeah. It
So the
just,
ripple will begin on this side of the planet. And not to say that we force ourselves and jump onto a wave that's moving ahead of us. We are on our own divine wave.
yeah.
But really tuning into that is an important piece of this sisterhood.
Yeah. And I feel that the word responsibility is, I want to give people a new definition for it. So it's not by burden or shame or coming from lack,
Mm.
but
Mm.
responsibility, how we respond. How are we going to respond to each moment? Responding to life, respond to ourselves. And that fabric, once we touch into, as you said, that infinite love that is of everything,
Mm.
with that being the sort of the elixir of our movement into everything.
Mm.
And sometimes love is to be quiet. Sometimes love is to pull back. Sometimes
Mm.
love is to sit in silence. And other times it's to step forward and take that action from that place. So
Yeah.
it's just beautiful to witness it in you. It's beautiful to still be part, Bill and I, for those, Ashley's touched into it, but Bill and I touch into her program. And so we have this glorious hour and a half of being with other beings that are really in this incredible discovery. of knowing selves and knowing their heart and learning their voice and creating the change that from the inside out. So it's quite beautiful. Ashley, for all those women, we're having all different people listen, women and men. We're having parents live from, or listen and live,
Mm,
experience from every gender, every, it actually doesn't matter if you're masculine or feminine, just the,
mhm,
or male or female, just this aspect of you can be a parent physically and have a child. You can be in a place where you're discovering who you are in a very innocent level and reparenting who you are as self. You can be a parent by just being kind of pushed in by spirit into leadership role with
mhm,
other hearts. You're the parent or the holder or the mentor or the sage in that environment, whatever
mm,
it is. It could be having a coffee at the coffee shop. It could be at your gym workout. It could be what people would itemize as work in every environment. What would you like to say to these people that are really wanting to consciously have translate this love? They want to create different choices and parent a whole
mm,
new way within themselves, outside of selves. What would you like to say to them in this moment?
mm. Yeah, I feel that the worthiness piece is being transmuted for a lot of us here on the planet today. And the one thing that I would share is that every single one of us, no matter our orientation, our history, the path that we walked, are worthy of decisions that are aligned with our own values today. No matter our family framework, no matter the structures we have, no matter our socioeconomic orientation, now more than ever, I mean, you see it, I see it. The manifestation is so quick of our thoughts, our beliefs moving to our thoughts, and our thoughts moving into action, and the form on this planet. So, what it comes back to for me each and every day is what values really bring me joy? What values really have me feel lit up? Is it going out with friends and drinking that cup of coffee and giving myself 3, 4 hours without my cell phone or my watch to be in direct relationship with one another? And even during these times, it's possible, whether it's your elderly grandmother, whether it's your child, and just being really front and center with them and being in the presence of one another without any agenda, without any need to be anywhere but here. Is it being in nature? Is it cooking? Is it exploring your ancestry and your cultural orientation? Is it creating with your hands? Like whatever it is that you value in this lifetime, identify that. Maybe you start with your top 3 values. What is it that's most important to you? If it's speaking your truth, perhaps in 3 situations where you find yourself not able to speak your truth, you focus on those situations for the next month and you say, hey, I'm going to tweak this and try something new in this particular situation that honors my truth a little bit more. So, knowing that that change is not immediate in any of our lives, it does take consistent intention, first and foremost, and practice. But through that, we'll gradually start to see that as we give ourselves permission, the other is also given permission to be different in tandem with us. So, through ourselves, we do change the world. And there's no doubting how powerful we are when we deem ourselves worthy of living in the truth of our joy, our humanness, our values in this lifetime. So tap into your truth around those values. Pick up a journal, plaster notes across your bathroom mirror, whatever you feel you have to do to remind yourself of what you value. This is outside of your kids, outside of your partner, outside of your family structure, outside of your workplace. What do you as a human uniquely value? Because I think that's where life begins for all of us is in orienting ourselves towards that which puts a smile on our faces. And for me, it's this sort of conversation. That's why I haven't stopped smiling through this, because there's so much allowance for the fullness of me in this space. I can be radically like loud and show up fully and, just be gregarious. And I can also be so soft and tender and in my tears. And for that for me that is the wild sisterhood. That is the kind of sisterhood that's always fueled me. And sure, I tucked it away for about 15, 20 years of my life. And now that it's rebuilding its roots in my life, it's it's really given me a chance to inspire from a new place.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for sharing those tidbits.
Mm.
So for people listening, Ashley, as we're coming to our kind of the close of this episode anyway, and it's like more like a spiral than a complete circle close.
Mm, yeah.
Going, um, tell everyone how they can get a hold of you. How would they connect with you and start either reading or, you know, dipping in or going fully into your program? How would they do that?
Yeah, thank you. So the Reconnection Project, which Patricia is a part of, Patricia and Bill, that is housed on our website and all the information around that, raisinghumanity.com. And within that, we also have blogs, we have some interviews that I've done. um, especially during this time, there's been so many chances to share and expand and cross pollinate. So a lot of that is housed on the website. And this new learning center that I spoke about, where we bring everyone together in the type of village that we envisioned, that's housed now at yourvirtualplayground.com. So registration for that opens next week.
Mm,
But we do speak across our social media platforms about this as well. On Facebook, we have a village at Raising Humanity Village, but we are trying to migrate a lot of those conversations into the actual villages. So whether it be the program with all of you, or it be in the learning center, we are trying to build spaces where we can have more intimacy and really have it be interactive, because we know that Facebook can be limiting even of our freedom and the freedom of truth. So we really want to create these spaces where we feel unencumbered and can come in, into spaces together without the fear of being shut down or being censored or not being allowed, all those things that really speak to the wholeness of us. So yes, Instagram, we've got the at Raising Humanity space. But again, if you're feeling called to really come into connection with us and all of the incredible facilitators like Bill and Patricia here in that space, then we do encourage you to really get on the email list, get into these other communities, because that's where the real alchemization is happening.
yeah, beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much, Ashley, for spending time here.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to have intersected with humans like you along the path. It's
Yeah,
a real honor.
yeah, you're so welcome. And this video will be posted on YouTube, so I'll send out the link. And I'm inviting people to subscribe to YouTube so that they can get updated every week. And the wildness in me always has many things changing quickly and rapidly.
Mm.
So I look forward to more interviews in the future with you, Ashley, more possibilities of that cross pollination we often speak about. And thank you. And thanks for joining us and have an amazing day. And
Yeah, I will. I can't wait to get out in this sun. Well, I can wait because this has been so good, and I'm excited about that sun. So,
we have a sunny day here on the West Coast before
yeah.
the set then. So enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Lots of love to you, and thanks again for the space.
Yeah, and invite anyone to comment below, and both of us will watch those comments and answer any questions. And Ashley will share some links there. after she enjoys the day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you for episode 6 next week. Bye for now.